All right, welcome to Season 2, Episode 39, which is also Episode 71 of the Retro Game Club podcast. I am Rob, and with me is someone who can also be run on $2 worth of hardware, Hugh.
Yeah, with $1.50 to spare.
What's happening?
Not a ton. What have I been playing? I've been playing the Super Mario All-Stars version of Super Mario 3.
Mm-hmm.
I did Super Mario 2 a couple weeks ago, and kind of working through Super Mario 3. Mostly because if I don't play some games on the Nintendo thing, I'm going to feel like I'm wasting money on it.
Yeah.
I think that's it for me. And I'm worried about giving Nintendo like $10 or $20 a year and not getting anything in exchange. So I'm playing a game that I've already owned multiple copies of.
Yeah, well, they're supposed to be... They did an update of that this week, and people are speculating possibly Nintendo 64 games on it.
Okay, I could see that. I did see a story going around the internet about Nintendo cracking down on soundtracks posted to YouTube.
Yeah, and Twitch too, yeah.
Yeah, which tells me maybe they're going to put their music on Spotify or maybe not. Who knows? I try and think like what's the good that could be coming from this, but then usually I get disappointed.
Yeah, maybe they're coming out with some DJ game or something. Maybe it's like Make My Music Video, but on the Switch.
Maybe, yeah. Or maybe one of their lawyers just found out that people post music on YouTube.
Yeah, that's just crazy. And I mean, it's almost like free advertisement for them. You know what I mean? Just like how there was recently some debate about should people streaming games on Twitch be paying the game developers? No, it's free advertising.
Yeah, that's a really, really weird one. But yeah, that's about it for me. What have you been up to?
Not too much gaming wise. Definitely played our Game Club games a little bit. I'll get into this later, but we picked a 3D or a 32X game at probably the only time in the past 5 years that I had my 32X unplugged because I'm trying to rework it with these new cables I got, to have it work on my analog Genesis thing. Mm-hmm. So I had to emulate that this time, and yeah, just a bunch of little projects and catching up with stuff, but hopefully stopping to complain about work. Every episode, things are starting to normalize, so keeping it more gaming, less complaining. But yeah, we actually have some cool news items this week, and kind of a fun topic. Well, if you listen to this podcast, probably a fun topic. So, should we just dive in?
Yeah. So I don't know what Among Us is, but apparently someone has done I guess not a demake on Game Boy, but a video of what it would look like as a demake on Game Boy.
Yes. Yeah. So, what system is this on? It is on PC and mobile. So I've never played it, but I've heard a lot of people talk about it. So it's a pretty popular game, and now you can see what it would look like in what color would you call it a Game Boy? Off-white, kind of murky yellow, or murky
kind of
green.
Beige.
Yeah. But so if you're a fan of that, definitely check that out on screenrant.com. SEGA will test fans' knowledge as part of its 60th anniversary. So apparently in January, in Japan, it looks like, you will have 60 multiple choice questions and 60 seconds each to answer each one. And the winner just gets bragging rights. Apparently they're going to be difficult questions, but we should definitely, once those questions are released, have that as a topic and just kind of go through them.
go through them, see if I can get any of them right, because there'll be like a couple eras where probably I can do extremely well, and then it'll be like, what's the name of this character from Jet Set Radio or whatever, and I'll just bomb.
Yeah, the Saturn era would be where I just don't know too much. But apparently you have till January 12th to register. So I don't know if you could do this in English, but
It's on a site that has /en in the URL, telling me it probably is an English version.
nice. I might do this. I'm going to leave that open for now. What do we got next here?
NES palette comparisons from RetroRGB.com, one of our favorite sites.
Yeah, yeah. So apparently, now a lot of this is over my head, but apparently, Nintendo uses the PPU, PPU, which is picture processing units, to do its video processing, and it does it all internally, and it didn't really translate to perfect RGB, so it just talks about that and how difficult it is to get it accurate. And really, even in the FPGA world, it's really best effort, It seems like no one really cracked PPUs yet, which is amazing.
Yeah.
It's a long article, too, so a very niche thing, but really interesting.
Yeah, it's very, very detailed. So it's definitely for if you have an hour or half an hour to kill.
Yeah, yeah.
So a lot of Sega news this week. So Sonic the Hedgehog lifetime sales are over 1 billion copies of things with Sonic in the name, I guess.
Yeah, yeah. That includes stuff like Sonic Team Racing and all those kind of things, too. Wow.
Yeah. So when you throw in anything with Sonic in the name, I'm surprised it took this long.
Yeah, yeah. That's really that article. So I guess good job, Sonic, huh? He's almost as rich as Elon Musk, I guess.
Almost, yeah, on paper. Sonic the Hedgehog proved he's a better hero than Iron Man. I only know the song Iron Man. I've never seen any of the movies, so this one's lost on me.
So I won't really go into it if you're a fan of Marvel or Sonic. This is also on Screen Rant. A lot of ScreenRant.com episodes this episode. It just kind of goes into Iron Man had to deal with his family and his friends, I guess colleagues. I don't know what you would call an adventure if you're an adventure. I guess colleagues. But Sonic also had to deal with the fate of Dr. Eggman and how he had to also save him a few times, even though, Dr. Eggman's trying to kill all his friends. And this is actually a pretty long article, but I like this article, but also I can't believe someone actually wrote this. They were sitting there thinking who Sonic is better than? Iron Man.
They made how many Iron Man movies? I've never seen any of them. That's actually a true statement.
I'm
not trying to be like a hipster by saying I don't see things that are popular. I just don't really like superhero movies that much.
No, neither do I, but I usually end up seeing them regardless. They made 3 of them. And actually the second one is pretty good. The rest of them are just, superhero movies. Speaking of superhero movies, want to rank some Spider-Man games?
Yeah, so this is Kotaku has an article where they rank nearly every Spider-Man game. I'm sure there's some obscure things that they missed. And I'll just kind of cut to the chase here. So last is Spider-Man The Sinister Six, which is a 1996 PC game.
Never heard of it.
I've heard of it. I don't really remember it. And number 1, I guess, is the PS5 launch game, Spider-Man: Miles Morales.
Yeah, that is supposed to be fantastic. And I played the game right before that, just Marvel's Spider-Man, and that was a fun game.
Yeah, I mean, I will probably get it for $12.99 in 5 years. Is my guess.
Oh, totally. Or free. I don't know if you're a PS Plus member.
No, I'm not. But It could be like how I got Uncharted 4. It's like, well, I think I'll finally buy a PlayStation 4. What are my options? It's like, well, here's a PlayStation 4, or here's a PlayStation 4 for the same price, but it includes Uncharted 4.
Yeah, yeah. And your Game Club game of the episode, The Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire, is number 21 in this, which I do not... That's one of the few I don't agree with. I think that should be higher up.
Well, yeah, I mean, we'll talk about it later. Like, I don't necessarily think it should be high on the list of Spider-Man games or any games. But it's below some games that are definitely worse.
Yeah, I mean, a Spider-Man for Atari 2600 is number 18 on this.
Right, yeah.
And I mean, I never played the PS3 Spider-Man games, so I don't know about those, but all right, yeah. A lot of superhero stuff.
History of Intel versus AMD desktop performance with a lot of charts.
So,
if this is something you care about.
And I do. I put this in here because we have a lot of listeners that, do emulation and have, since really any of these CPUs on this list were released. This list starts in 2001. It's funny. It just kind of goes through, this is kind of going through memory lane for me, but how AMD was really on top until about 2006. And then Intel just crushed it until about last year. And now AMD is just killing it again. And that's for single-threaded and multi-threaded. And I just remember back in the day before this list, I had a Pentium MMX 233, and I thought it was amazing. And, best graphics possible. And then I went over to my buddy's house who got, like mine was pretty new, but he just built a computer a few months later. And he had an AMD that was like 500 megahertz for the same price. Just insane. But, yeah, different times. So if you were interested in that, definitely kind of a interesting read.
Yeah, I generally don't think about this too much because I'm not trying to play games on the computer. I'm usually going for what's like best value. I know that like Linus Torvalds is not a big fan of modern Intel CPUs and thinks they contain a lot of unnecessary features that make them more expensive. And the way he put it, he would put it more bluntly than I will, but he basically has said that Intel includes a lot of features that exist solely to score better on benchmark tests, but that have no practical purpose.
Yeah, he would definitely use more colorful language than that.
Yes. And I do tend to agree with that. That's why I think some of these charts are kind of useless, right? Because I agree. I think Intel does do things to try and make their chips look better in benchmark tests that you in the real world would never notice the difference. And in some cases, you might actually notice problems. Like Intel has had, one of the worst security problems in computing in the past 5 years was due to Intel hardware architecture, right? Mm-hmm. So specifically like how memory gets shared between processes. So people would we're using Intel servers to run cloud server environments under the assumption that like the process of one virtual machine couldn't ever understand anything about the process of the other machine. But then it turns out they could actually, there was a bit of memory that they could share. Mm-hmm. And you could use it to have like two completely unrelated apps, access each other's memory or small portions of each other's memory.
Yeah, but when they fixed that one, didn't it actually slow things down? Wasn't that like preemptive?
Well, you fix it in software by basically flushing the memory cache every time you switch processes. Oof. I mean, at the end of the day, these are multi-thread PCs, but they're still like they're still like process switching. Mm-hmm. And so it's when you switch processes, you just flush all the caches, which yes is going to hurt performance because you're flushing the cache between every process switch.
Yeah. Oof. What else do we got? You were done talking about CPU architecture just for a little bit. I'm sure we'll bring it up every other episode.
Absolutely. Someone made a cool Wiiboy Color hack. Sorry, it's a good name. It's a system modeled kind of after the Game Boy Color. It visually is, similar to Game Boy Color. Mm-hmm. And it's a portable Wii. That's
it's beautiful.
Inside, you still need the Wiimote to do some things on it. But it's got like dual analog sticks, and looks pretty impressive.
Yeah,
I
you
don't think
can.
Nintendo would be releasing one of these, but it is pretty cool.
No, I wish they would. You can
Yeah.
if you shake it, it simulates the controller shake, and if he built a stand for it also, and it has a video out, so you can plug this thing into your HDMI TV and use a regular Wiimote and play it like a Wii. It's just this thing is great. But yeah, he really hacked up that motherboard. I mean, he really hacked that thing up. There's no way any of us are doing this. And I mean, it has, nice chargeable batteries, and he actually built some PCBs for this thing. So not many people will be building this. If one of our listeners has the ability to build this, please email me. I will buy one of these. If you if you build it, I will buy it. Let's just say that. But this is on Nerdist.com, which we actually don't link to often.
Now, this next article, I misread the headline. I got really excited. Now I'm not as excited. Return to Castle Wolfenstein has a fan port to the Switch. Now, I thought this was like one of the original Wolfenstein or Beyond Castle Wolfenstein. But this is the 2001 game. Nothing wrong with it. I've never really played it. But it's something that looks... Has this built on Quake 2 engine? It looks like it is.
It looks like it is. It's got to be. It's really got to be.
It probably isn't, but it looks like it. I guess I could have looked it up beforehand.
And it's a fan port, right? So, I mean, you would have to have a rooted Switch anyway. Am I reading this wrong?
So I'm close. It's based on the Quake 3 engine.
Oh, there you go.
Which is, of course, based on the Quake 2 engine.
Yeah.
So that's neat. I don't know if it'll be an official release or not. I assume not. Hackaday has a cool thing here. PET 2001 emulator on $2 of hardware. So the PET 2001 is a kind of obscure Commodore computer. I've seen a Commodore PET, but I don't think you need a lot of power to actually emulate it, just because it's so old. And so they have. I'm not familiar with this piece of hardware. It's called the STM32 Blue Pill. Sounds like that title sounds like a Discord server I never want to join. But I guess that's a very, very small computer. It's an Arduino device. Unfortunately, I'm just not familiar with it. But let's see the specs on it. It has very, very, very small amount of RAM. 32K. I can't really see what power it is. So it's meant for very, I suppose, specialized cases. And you can buy one. You can buy a dev kit for it on Amazon for $18 if you want. That's the deceptive thing. They say $2 piece of hardware. It's like, yeah, that little board is $2, but you still have to get it power and video out and all that stuff, and that's going to be a couple dollars more. But still, it's a pretty impressive feat. If you just want to have a little dedicated emulator, in very, very little in this case.
I don't think I've ever really even used a PET. It was just a little bit before my time, If any of my friends had a Commodore, it's a Commodore 64.
I mean, I've seen one in maybe, I've seen one. That's about as far as I've gone.
Yeah. This next article is, we used to link to this site all the time, and I'm actually making an effort to go to it more often because our listeners really liked our kind of emulation updates, and kind of slowed down on that, only because for some reason it's not in my feed as much. But on woolulu.net, there's a jailbreak for a PS4 that uses Webkit. And the reason why this is retro is because it'll allow you to install RetroArch or something like that. So PS4s and PS4 Pros are really powerful machines, and I'm sure would make great retro machines, much better than something that the holdings company of Atari is about to send
Yeah.
everyone.
Yeah, now some future iteration of the hardware. Oh, it's just PS4, not PS5. Never mind. I guess then, because sometimes they find a way to break these hacks on future versions of the hardware. But I guess that's not the case for PS4 because they aren't making new versions of PS4 likely. Maybe they will, right? Maybe at some point in the future there will be a PS4 Mini or something. PS4 Slim, I guess they would call it.
Yeah, it'd be a Slim. Yeah, a top loader.
Yeah, or no disk drive at all. Like I could see that maybe as like a last thing they do. I don't know. I just debate, would I get a backup PS4 if it didn't have a disk drive? Probably not. I don't think I own enough download games to make that worthwhile.
Yeah, I just like having that disk drive. When eventually I get a PS5, I'll get the one with the disk drive just because I have a ton of discs and the PS4 discs, to my knowledge, work in it. So why not? There's a new 3D Sonic animated series coming out on Netflix in 2022. That's about all the news we have there now.
That is all we know.
Have you ever played Shadowrun on the Genesis?
No, I've played the Super Nintendo version a ton, but it's a different game. It's like one of those same name, different game situations.
Well, there's a Paste Magazine article about Shadowrun. It's a really long article. It really goes into it. And they just talk about it because it's a Cyberpunk game. And I guess that new Keanu Reeves game, Cyberpunk, 2077? Is that what it's called? Am I right? Or
yeah. No, I think that's right, 2077. So yeah, the Genesis version of Shadowrun is more RPG-like than this. They're both RPGs. But the Super Nintendo one, you don't really have... I mean, you can get... Okay. So there's like a single player, and you can get party members. You can like hire temporary party members, but it's not really like an RPG. I mean, it is an RPG, but it kind of is. It's hard to describe. It's like more like an action RPG. And the Genesis one is more like a strategy RPG. They're basically two different companies got the license and made completely different games.
I mean, I watched, because of this, I watched some videos of it. I've never played it. And yeah, it looked all right. It looked pretty interesting. I like cyberpunk type stuff. I just think it's funny that, like, no one in these games has cell phones. It's all video pay phones that they're hacking. If only it went that way.
And last up, Doom running on a regular Genesis, meaning a Genesis that is not running on an FPGA board.
Yeah.
And therefore able to have more horsepower. So this is the developer of EverDrive showing this demo. And it looks terrible. Now, when I looked at the source code, it's the original C source code. Recompiled, and probably, I don't know what they did to make it, to work with the Genesis VDP and all that stuff. So it's not really optimized at all. And he admits as much. There is I was thinking about this because there is a Wolfenstein 3D for the Sega Genesis that runs really well.
I feel like this could be running 3 to 5 times better than it is. It doesn't even have color. And it's at like a half a frame a second.
Yeah. But the point is, like, I think you could, if you wrote it in assembler and did a ton of optimization, you could probably make it work okay. Again, because the Wolfenstein port is pretty good. But it's a completely thankless project that would take more time than I can imagine.
And it's already on the 32X, right?
It is, and it's not good. But that's another one where, again, if you had time, like, these guys were rushed. So Doom for 32X, I think, was one of the first releases, that came out in the fall. You got to get Doom for 32X out before a certain time to make the Christmas market, right? Because if you don't get it out in time, then you won't have it on sale for Christmas, and then your game is gone, right? Like Doom for 32X, released October 1994, sells 1,000 times the copies of Doom for 32X, released January 1995.
Oh, totally. Yeah.
Right? There's a couple month window difference. So, yeah, given a lot more time, you probably could make a really, really good version of Doom on 32X.
Oh, yeah. I mean, it could probably be almost perfect. Almost perfect. Because 32X actually has a lot more memory than, the Genesis does. Do you think you'd ever code a 32X game?
Could I? I don't know, because it's a
would?
different language. No, I doubt I ever will, just because I don't want to learn. I mean, here's the thing. Like, I suppose I could look at the SDKs and write C code, so I didn't have to learn how to actually program the hardware in the 32X. But I don't know. Doesn't seem like something I'm super interested in. Maybe I will one day. I don't know. Yeah. I'd rather figure out Sega CD. I would have much more fun learning Sega CD than 32X.
Is it that much different than just Genesis coding, Sega CD?
Yeah, it is a little bit. I mean, it is because you're remember the game is still mostly running on the Genesis, so it's like most of the work is switching between, is sort of interacting between the two. Like the Sega CD has its own independent Motorola 68000, and then the Genesis is doing most of the work. But like your video hookup and all that stuff is still going through the Genesis. So it's coordinating those things looks a little bit tricky, and there's not great documentation.
That's
and why would there be? But the reason Sega CD is interesting to me is like I don't know how to write music. So if I wanted to do like another like adventure or RPG game, it would be really nice to just be able to put public domain music and Redbook audio and not worry about it.
Oh, totally. Yeah, good point. I mean, there's sites for like $90 you could get full rights to a song. You know what I mean? And if you didn't want the public
or
domain
$0
stuff.
if you don't really care about how great it is.
Yeah.
There's plenty of people who put out like public domain music for nothing. So, in classical-ish music works pretty well for most RPG settings. So,
totally, yeah.
Oh, and the other reason is like I think. So the other side note, like I'm wondering if it's more or less work. Like I could either learn how to do graphics compression really well, or learn how to do Sega CD development. Because obviously, one of the issues with the Genesis is you're constantly worried about running out of space because you only have like 4 meg total space to work with, and if you have save games, you actually have slightly less than 4 meg of space to work with.
Yeah.
But Sega CD, just pile it on, man. You don't even have to think about it.
That's awesome. All right. Before this episode, I had the idea of just because I happen to be flipping through them over the past few weeks and just thinking about the old Turbo Play magazines, we figured we'd flip through the November 1991 Turbo Play magazine. And for people that don't know, Turbo Play was a pretty short-lived, it was more than a year, maybe a few years, for TurboGrafx 16 and CD and kind of Duo. There's a Turbo Duo magazine too, which we should do sometime, but this is the November 1991 issue. And this is on, we're linking to it, but it's on duofile.com. Yeah, they're hyping their, on the cover, their new Addams Family game, which, that was a Game Club game, wasn't it?
I may have done Addams Family for TurboGrafx once.
I think so. But, yep, it's the picture from, I think it was a 1990 movie, maybe. But, yeah, this is a strange magazine, then it goes into a Parasol Stars ad, and I'm trying to find the fun stuff here.
Yeah, I bookmarked a couple of pages. I mean, it's sort of weird because it's like a Halloween game in a November issue of a magazine that we're talking about in December.
Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. And we were going to pick a different issue, but anything that would have lined up at all was more boring than this issue. But
And I didn't read it ahead of time, so I'm kind of winging it a little bit here. What I'm disappointed by is I don't see any letters to the editor, because that's always my favorite part.
there is a content, there's one or two in here, I think, unless I'm thinking of a different issue I read earlier today, but
Okay.
there's a many page story about the making of the Addams Family game, which is not the best read in the world, but it looks like they developed this on a IBM PS2. That looks like
Yeah.
it's hard to
That's what
tell,
the computer looks like.
which is strange because I mean I don't know much about game development, but that's a completely different architecture that does not seem powerful enough to emulate a different architecture.
Well, it's probably not. They probably have like a dev kit, so they're writing code on this, and you can compile to 6502, which is
Yeah.
not exactly 6502 in the TurboGrafx, but it's extremely close. And then you're running it on the dev hardware. It looks like they do a lot of their graphics design on a Mac. So, because that's in here further on. So, well, I guess it was ICOM. ICOM made a ton of Mac games, so obviously they had Mac hardware.
That's right. Yeah, these screenshots actually show the old Mac OS dock there,
Yeah,
or whatever it was called. Yeah.
yeah. But it's very likely, developers use different computers based on what they were comfortable with.
Yeah, yeah. And then reviews in this are really funny because, I mean, this is essentially Nintendo Power for TurboGrafx. So it's like, champions forever boxing. Graphics got an 8 out of 10,
Yeah,
rating, like by
but
the
that
company
game is not
who's
very good.
no, no. And if you read these, I mean, maybe an 8 out of 10 for this is just really bad. You know what I mean?
They have a review of East 3, a game that I may be picking sometime in the future. And the screenshots are all the screenshots are all pretty late in the game, except for the one that's the intro screen. So I guess they must have played through the whole game or gotten a code or something, because they are fighting like the second to last boss in one of these screenshots.
And East 3 has pretty incredible graphics. So, and it only got a 9 out of 10. It got 9 out of 10s across the board: sound, graphics, playability, and overall. So, what do you need to get a 10
Well, the
out of 10 on
animation is
this?
kind of like, yeah, so the characters sort of seem like they move about 1 frame per second. That would be the downside on the TurboGrafx version. It's one of these games that looks amazing standing still, and a little bit less amazing when you start walking around.
Yeah, it's not bad when you're walking around. It's just not as fluid as it could be. But this game definitely has one of the best intros out of, I think, any game ever. It's just a beautiful intro.
Then they have the Ultimate Turbo Tips Guide, which is almost completely unreadable.
I was
It's
going to bring that up. Can you describe this to the listeners?
Well,
Is that
it's
meat?
essentially, it could be meat, yeah. So the background is like, I think it's a stone texture, but in red. So if you do like a granite fill in GIMP or Paint Shop, right? And then you colorize it to be red instead of granite colored, that's what you would get here.
With
And this is the background of Turbo Tips, and it's just painful to look at. Maybe in the original print it looks better, but in scanned form, you can barely read the text over this red granite film. It's like, yeah, it is. It's like you cut raw meat on top of a stone slab and then use that
Yeah, and
for photographs.
the headers are blue, and you know how great it is when you mix red and blue. I mean, you're out, you just go cross-eyed pretty much. And the regular to like 12 font black text is just unreadable, which is really unfortunate because there are a lot of cool, I mean, I assume these are cool codes, but
Yeah,
I can't read enough
they
of
are.
them
Yeah,
to
yeah.
actually
I've
tell.
used a few of these codes in the past, and that's the problem. So you get to like page 23, and it's a well-known, like this code's all over the internet now, and I think it was in every magazine back in the day. So for like eSpoke 1 and 2, you can start the game at maximum level. So if you don't want to grind, you just want to play through the story, there's a code to start at maximum level. The problem is the passwords are like 3,000 characters. And I challenge you to actually get the code from this page to work in the game.
Oh, 0% chance. 0% chance. Oh, it looks like there's a Devil Crush one in here, but I can't see what it actually says.
Yeah.
But
So
you said page 23. Now we need to let people know that this unreadable content starts on page 16. I mean, a good
yeah. It's a huge section. Yeah.
It's just unreadable segment of the magazine. Oh man, yeah, there are a ton of tips in here. I think more so than any Nintendo Power has ever had. Oh wait, what's this ad here? Ultimate Game Club, 1-800 buy at Game Club.
Uh-oh. I hope they don't sue us.
Yeah. Buy 2 PC Engine games, get a PC connector free. PC converter free. What's a PC converter? Is that to play your TurboGrafx?
To play because it's because PC Engine games don't work on it. They run on an American TurboGrafx, but you need an adapter.
Yeah, there's like a flipped pan or something, right?
Something like that. Yeah.
Okay, yeah. Buy 2 Mega Drive games, get a converter free. Buy a Turbo Express, get a free carrying case. And
Not
this
bad.
is the best ones. Buy a Super Graphics and get a free Super Graphics game. Since there was only 5 and they were really expensive, that's actually a pretty good deal.
Yeah, it is a good deal. That system was kind of dead on arrival.
Yeah.
So I'm guessing the vendor was stuck with a lot of them. That's crazy to think about. Like this, that's a very, very expensive system to get. Buying it new now would cost you several $1,000s to get it in like really pristine condition. Mm-hmm. And here these guys are like, please take these Super Graphics off our hands.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a pretty good ad there.
Now, I didn't have any money back in 1991, or else I would have had the foresight to import that.
Yeah, absolutely.
I skipped ahead to Games of the World or Games Around the World.
I haven't heard of half these games.
Yeah, I've maybe heard of half, but haven't played half. And I have to go check if some of these ended up being vaporware. So let's see, we got Pom Ping World, which I believe was shortened to one word, Pomping World, and we got this in the U.S. Under a different name. 1943 Battle of Midway. I don't believe we got in the U.S., but I believe it's real. Columns was definitely not a U.S. release. Master of Monsters, Download 2. Yeah, those were real.
I didn't know Download 2.
Yeah,
Download
2
two
was
words. 2 words. Download.
You're right. There it is. 2 words. Yes. Power 11. I don't really recall one way or another. Hellfire, I believe, also came out. And on the page with Hellfire and Power 11 is another ad, but it's not nearly as good. This is Video Game Specialist, 24-hour order line. They don't say what they're selling. You call them, and they accept your Visa or MasterCard, and I guess you get something.
In the middle of the night, yeah. Yeah, you could... Well, their TurboGrafx CD is $20 less than others, but it doesn't say how much the shipping is. I'm sure that's where they get you.
Yeah. Bonk's Revenge. Okay. And what else is on? I only bookmarked like a couple of the pages. Oh, yeah. No, the other games they preview are Ghost Warrior Spriggan, which we did not get in the U.S. Racing Spirits also didn't get. But they talk about Splash Lake, which we did get in the U.S. It's a very fun game.
Yeah, you keep threatening to have that one as a Game Club game. You have a few times at least, yeah. But then to the coming soon. No vaporware on page 1 here. Andre Panza Kickboxing, that was released and is not great. And my least favorite Turbo Chip game, Darkwing Duck. Just a
Yeah, Darkwing Duck is not good.
Horrible game.
And then they have a contest. I accidentally zoomed in. Oh, I can't read it. So they had a crossword puzzle in the June-July issue. So we should have done that. Would have tried the crossword puzzle live. They got a ton of entries. In the end, we learned a few things. If you make a mistake, people call you blah, 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 blah. Okay. So the winner was Mark Burke from Holden, Massachusetts. No other information about him I could find online. And then a bunch of runners-up. So Mark wins 10 Turbo Chip games. Or he won 10 Turbo Chip games.
A great prize. I mean, could you imagine back then getting 10 games? I wish they told you which games. Maybe they could just pick.
I am looking up some of the other people that won here. Aha! I thought one name sounded familiar. I worked at the same company as one of these people.
Wait, what?
There you go.
You know one of these people?
I'm not gonna call. I don't know them. No, I just recognize the name as someone who worked at a company that I once worked at.
Really?
There's only a couple entries from Illinois, so yeah.
That is amazing. I'm looking up
and I've worked on a lot of different projects.
The Turbo Play address I'm looking up right now, in Beverly Hills, California. Let's see what it is now. It's a residence now. Huh. Very interesting.
It is a very expensive residence, I'm sure.
Yeah. Very strange. So it's so strange how back then they would put your full name plus where you lived. And in other issues, I don't know if it's this issue. I don't think so, but they would put, if you wrote them on CompuServe, they'd give your CompuServe contact on there. But yeah, it's always funny to look these people up, see what they're doing now.
Yeah, it's hard because you end up you end up hitting a lot of obituaries, and then it's hard to tell if it's the same person. Because at least one of these people does appear to have died 2 years ago from hypertension.
It was a very stressful crossword puzzle.
Yes.
I don't think I've ever mentioned this on this show, but back before LinkedIn had very specific categories you could what's it called? Not recommend, but what is that called on LinkedIn when you say like someone's good at programming, this person's good at C++?
Recommended? Yeah, it's recommended.
Is it recommend? Okay.
Yeah.
Or vouch. It's a vouch, isn't it? I don't know. But
oh no, endorse. It was endorse.
Thank
That's
you.
What they called
yes. It. Before they had specific categories, you could just type in what you endorse someone for. And I would, when we were bored at this one job I had, we were going through Nintendo Power and endorsing people for like Excite Bike and stuff like that. We would find them on LinkedIn and endorse them. And no one ever responded. But yeah, it's pretty funny and kind of dangerous. Like you would never a lot of these people are probably underage, and putting full names just not a good idea. I don't know what they were thinking back then, but
yeah, and that's why I sort of questioned like the last magazine we did. It would be like, you know, I'm a 14-year-old girl who enjoys video games. And I'm like, well, today she would be getting death threats nonstop.
Oh yeah, totally.
Right. Like,
yeah, she would have to move. Yeah.
But different time in 1991. We didn't have, 8chan or whatever in 1991.
You had to put a lot more work into being evil. The next page on this, prepare to butt heads again. It's a one page. It looks like it's going to be a Bonk 2 teaser, and the next page they actually show you Bonk's Revenge.
Mm-hmm.
Some pretty good
There you go.
screenshots.
Yeah, I mean, compared to other magazines at the time, there really is not a lot of content in this. The tips guide is really good. I get that. There's a lot of good tips. Were they in like every issue though? Like, did every issue have the same list of?
No,
if I skip
there
ahead,
was
the next
like
issue they have is
they're different.
the next
like
issue they have is like January '92. Does it have the exact same content? I don't know.
Some had
It
editor
has news and
feedback
Darkwing
and
Duck
stuff.
reviews.
But I
Yeah,
picked this up.
yeah. I really like the ones that have editor feedback.
Yeah, they had Turbo Mail after that is what they called it. I got this, but I don't know how. Like, I don't remember really paying for this. I don't remember this being in stores too much. And I remember that because it seemed like Electronic Gaming Monthly was the only magazine that did a lot of TurboGrafx stuff. Like Game Pro and the other ones never really did TurboGrafx. So I remember picking up EGM, but I just don't remember TurboPlay in the stores.
Yeah, I mean, I was in a store around this time. I don't remember it being there. Die Hard Game Fan was kind of the one that did TurboGrafx coverage because it did a lot of like Japan exclusive coverage.
Mm-hmm.
You know, they like to do,
Yeah.
here's some weird game in Japan you're not going to get. Which is 3/4 of the TurboGrafx library.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Thank you for EverDrives for fixing that. EverDrives and translations. Should we I know we're running out of time here. Should we run into some game club? The whole reason we're here?
Yeah, let's do that. Why don't you do your game first?
All right. I did Shadow of the Ninja, which is a game I thought I played before, but never have. And I put in my EverDrive and I went to play it and it wasn't there. So I went on my stacks of ROMs I have in my hard drives and it wasn't there. And so, this is a game I do not own, but yeah, I had to go to a weird ROM site and I found it. Of course, the first link I clicked downloaded shadowoftheninja.msi, which I immediately deleted.
That's a good idea. Yeah.
But so I finally got it, and I only played this for about 20 minutes, but I really liked it. There's a evil emperor who takes over America. You're going through New York City, just getting people with your katana. You can get power-ups, not really power-ups. You can hold down the button longer to get a massive, I don't know, super weapon one-hit thing, but it takes away half of your life. So you can only use that if you have more than half of your life left. You could get throwing stars and a few other things you could pick up like that. Hand grenades, that's right. And it's a side scroller, I guess, beat 'em up, I don't know, platforming game that actually has a few vertical scrolling, kind of like, I don't know, I'd say like Contra. You could beat this one in about 25 minutes. A lot of people call it a Ninja Gaiden ripoff. I really think it's a mix between Ninja Gaiden and a little bit of Bionic Commando, a little bit of Nintendo's Strider. Great music. I think really good graphics. When did this come out? This was Natsume in 1991, 1990 in America, 1991 in Europe, and yeah, I would give this game a recommendation. It was better than I thought it'd be. What did you think about this one?
Yeah, I jotted down in the notes here that this was a lot better than I expected. I mean, I wasn't entirely sure what to expect, I guess. I kind of, I don't know, I think I'd probably had disregarded this as being a bad, Ninja Gaiden ripoff, and I actually liked it better than Ninja Gaiden. I mean, Ninja Gaiden looks better, like it has a better palette, and overall is a just aesthetically better game. But I thought this was more fun. I really enjoyed this a lot more. Not a type of game I played for very long. I only played a stage or two in this. But sort of like, it feels sort of like a Ninja Gaiden Bionic Commando kind of mashup. So I was pretty impressed with it.
What did you play it on?
I played it on NES.
The funny thing is I asked that because I'm looking at Wikipedia right now, and it was just released on Switch Online. So I did all that work, and I could have just played it on my Switch.
Yeah. Well, that's how it goes, right? You know, spend all this time trying to find a ROM and then realize, I just did that recently myself. Oh, right. I was trying to get, we're talking about Seventh Guest. I was trying to get Seventh Guest to run in, Scum VM or run in a virtual machine, blah, blah, blah. And it had been in my Steam catalog this whole time.
Yeah.
I actually purchased it years ago.
Yeah, you could have just downloaded and played and been done with it. But GamePro gave it a 23 out of 25. Called it an above average ninja game.
Okay.
So yeah, I think we were both surprised by this one. So I hope our listeners play this one. And let's jump to yours.
Yeah, I did Amazing Spider-Man Web of Fire for 32X. And remember that I was not a big fan of this game. It's been a while since I played it. And I sort of like mentally want to like this game because it's the last 32X game and that's kind of a neat novelty. But I just don't think it's that much fun. I mean, it's funny. We picked games that mechanically are kind of similar. Mm-hmm. And Shadow the Ninja is just more fun. Like, it's just easier to play, and I enjoyed it more, and I ended up thinking, man, Web of Fire really doesn't play very well.
This is a game where you
kind of just have one weapon, and it's kind of repetitive. Yeah.
Yeah, and they're actually, if you watch playthroughs, they both take about 25 minutes to 30 minutes to beat, so about the same length. It's a game that is more fun to watch a video of because it's a beautiful game, and when someone is playing it good, it looks really easy. But I'm not good at this game at all, and I don't know if it's the game or me.
I think it's the game. And again, same kind of deal where the 32X is really, kind of struggling at this point. And you've got this Spider-Man game mostly finished, and you can't release it after December 1995. It will sell 0 copies after December 1995, right?
Yeah.
So, the rating's already on the wall for the 32X at this point. The Saturn's out, the PlayStation's out. No one's buying 32Xs. So you have to get this thing out. And if you don't, that's it. So if the game is a little bit broken, a little bit unfinished, that's all right, because you have to get it out.
Yeah. And again, it is a beautiful, beautiful game. And I mean, it was competing with, 32X was competing with PlayStation at that time, right?
Oh, yeah. Well, competing, so to say. And Sega was competing with Sega's other system. Like, it was not good times for the 32X in 1995. It had some interesting games, for sure. But, the system was dead. The system was dead once the Saturn was released. Right?
Yeah.
Because Sega's already said we're moving on from all this Genesis stuff. And, there were crazy rumors early on that, like, if you owned a 32X and Sega CD, then you could play Saturn games on them because the Saturn was just, like, those two things glued together. Which, of course, wasn't the case.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. So, what do you want to play next episode?
I just wanted to pick a game I already know I like, and there's a few different ports of it. And pretty simple to get into. Super Off-Road.
Okay.
And how about you?
Which I might own a boxed copy of.
Nice. For SNES?
It was a total random find. So I'm going to go with another game. I thought this game turned 25 this year too, but I guess I'm thinking of the Windows 95 version of the game. So I want to get back to something multi-platform. And I'm going to go with Pitfall: The Mayan Adventure. So this is available on Super Nintendo, Genesis, Sega CD, 32X, Jaguar, and Windows 95. And I believe there might be a Game Boy Advance port at some point too. So there's lots of things to play this on. That's all. Let's get back to some multi-platform stuff.
Yeah, very cool. I think we picked some good games here. And if any of you guys have played any of these games, or you play, the new Game Club games, if you just want to talk about some games you're playing, some ideas, some projects you're working on, please email us. Email at retrogameclub.net. That is email at retrogameclub.net. Hit us up on Facebook, facebook.retrogameclub.net, or on Twitter at RGC Podcast. And we'd love to hear from you guys. And emails have been a down bit recently. They were down a bit during the first North American lockdown for the pandemic, and we're kind of back in that now. So I kind of see that trend happening, but I think people email us more when they have commutes to go on. I think that's when people are listening to us the most. So, but still, if you happen to hear this episode, please give us a shout out. We'd love to hear from you. And Joe writes us. He's just catching up on some episodes, and he really likes playing Super Monkey Ball. He played on the GameCube, and he thinks the arcade version's funny because it has a banana-shaped controller. And he really likes the Master System port of Rampage. He likes that they added the music and a proper ending. It's not very fun to play with yourself, but he used to work out a lot of frustration with his brother, and he thought it was better beating each other up as 30-foot monsters than in real life. And he remembers also being really impressed by Castle of Illusion on Genesis back in the day. He treated it as an example of how powerful the Genesis actually was, and it did look really impressive. And he found out that there was a Master System port, and it's quite good as well. So, Joe, thank you so much for that email.
Yeah, the Master System port is pretty good.
Very impressive. Yeah.
Let's see. I'll get the email from Majors. He talks about slot machines in the home. I forgot we spent so much time talking about that.
Yeah. Our last episode was weird.
But yeah, it was a weird one. But yeah, he's apparently owns a slot machine just for decorative purposes again. But he sometimes brings them to events, so like Midwest Gaming Classic, but then ends up selling them. Sonic R Anniversary. Enjoys the music from Sonic R, but the game has a few flaws. Just on a side note, while looking up the soundtrack, he happened to come across some videos of the lead singer singing live at a convention. It was the summer of Sonic 2008. So, I didn't know about that. So, NES Famicom cassette. So we were correct when we randomly guessed that the Famicom had a cassette add-on. And Zach put a link in the notes here for us that he fell into the rabbit hole of this and was reading all about spent a bunch of time reading about the Famicom data recorder and how it actually predates the FDS and had a bunch of cartridges like Family Basic. And you could use it to create stages for Excite Bike, Mach Rider, Wrecking Crew, Arkanoid 2, and Load Runner.
That's great.
That is pretty cool. Wow. And the $90 for the remake of East 2 is not that bad when the hardware itself goes for substantially more. And that obviously for people who collect this stuff, $90 is kind of nothing. Which is true. Yeah, I mean, I collect a lot of crazy stuff, but I don't think I'm going to pay $90 for a game that I literally can't play. And I still might. Who knows? Game Club games. Didn't play Shadow Ninja only because it was a late release and was imported to the Genesis. But he comments that like he looked at some screenshots or videos of it and that it looks a lot like Batman. And I agree with that. It does. The color palette is very similar to the NES Batman. And just mentions that Spider-Man Web of Fire is like a holy grail game. And he's not a big fan of the pre-rendered look that it has, which it kind of does a little bit. It's not maybe Donkey Kong Country, but it has a little bit of that.
I think it looks cool, though. I think it's a very good looking game.
Yeah. And yeah, so what is it? Email at retrogameclub.net.
That's right.
Is that
And,
our address? Good.
Yeah, yeah. So again, that is Super Off-Road and Pitfall: The Mine Adventures for Next Game Club, and we'll probably do one more episode, and then I think we're gonna do our King's Quest episode after that, and then maybe 2 or 3 weeks off to kind of regroup, and then we'll be into season 3 of Game Club at that point.
Yeah, take a little Christmas break, do whatever you can do around Christmas time this year. I guess you can still drive around and look at lights, right? Right?
Yeah.
You can look at lights. You can, I suppose by next Christmas, oh man, if this whole vaccine thing works out, I might have to see family next Christmas.
You'll find an excuse.
Yeah.
Just go to Florida or something.
Yeah,
instead.
maybe something new can go around. Yeah. But yeah, we'll talk about Christmas stuff next episode, I suspect. Like what our our plans or not are. If you have any good like retro gaming related holiday plans, you should definitely email us, because next episode, like Spider-Man for 32X, if we don't get them for next episode, they'll be useless in the one after it.
Yeah, exactly. Well, cool. All right. I guess that wraps it up.
Yeah, so thanks for listening.
Thank you.